Like, subscribe, and the Discovery Channel. Yes, the Discovery Channel. The link is provided below. So, today I'm in question of Kahlil Tatum. Yes, the man who killed not only his wife, but his self as well, and then a young 8-year-old child goes missing in the process. What type of man was Kahlil Tatum? What type of man do you feel he was? Nobody knew Kahlil Tatum but his family, and I'm thinking they were deeply in shock, grieving, as well as devastation in him turning the trigger on himself, as his nephew stated. His nephew stated in an interview about him offing himself, right? Some people feel because he has something to do with, say, Relisha being trafficked, and that made him wanted, such as a suspect. I'm saying pertaining to him taking her, as well as, say, killing his wife. That could have been the reason. There's so many questions up underneath that. See, when you look at photographs, because photographs in fact speak a lot. They can tell you a photograph, sometimes in movement and sometimes a still photograph, there's volumes to that. It speaks of an individual's character. And yet when I view any of Kahlil's photos, he looks almost like a uprighteous standing citizen. That sounds agreeable or disagreeable. I'll let you have your opinion, but nowhere on the man's photo, say, identity, when I look at him, it just doesn't seem like he could have said, I can sense and believe the man was in criminal activity, but when I look at the photo, it don't almost seem like sex trafficking could have been there with him involving a child. It could have been there with him, say, involving grown women. But we never know. He could have in fact did that sort of thing. FBI, police, everybody has stated they feel that the man didn't have any, pedophilia in nature, right? And yet nobody truly knows. But once somebody dies, you in fact, yes, FBI have access to everything, even connections in which the public don't know about. They're able to scope even that. Even if people were to lie and say, no, he didn't do this and that, yes, the details in fact tell, as in what people say leave behind in the hotel. And yet some people can in fact cover their tracks in that, but not all the way, because black light, fingerprint, all type of things you would in fact discover in a hotel room if you go up under that, in the form and fashion of forensic science and all the rest, peeping out who had their hands what. Even if Relisha said was known to hold on to remote control in the hotel room, even that could be picked up. Yes, that is in fact a science. Or anybody else, say males or other females that could have been in that hotel room in which Kahlil himself was known to go. Fingerprints. You got stuff that be stuck to cloth material, such as bedding and all that other stuff, right? There's a lens which could be taken to even all that, to see who all was in the hotel room. So that's why when I stated that Kahlil could in fact covered up stuff before he died, as in before he killed himself, but not all the way, because there's only so much cleaning a grown man can do himself, because forensic team can look all up underneath all that. Yes, they can. Even if the cleaning people came and cleaned up, there's things that in fact be left on the wall and all that other stuff, when, yes, particles and everything else. So yes, I'm in question of why would Kahlil's wife allow the both of them to stay and live in and out of hotel rooms? I asked this. Yes, it's important to ask that, because see, if Andrea worked and Kahlil worked, there was a poverty issue with them, right? On top of drug usage and jail history and all that other stuff. But to not say, if Andrea worked and Kahlil worked, that's to have in fact two incomes coming in, right? That's to in fact say that they could have found a cheap apartment, possibly not a high rise of expensive nature, but they could have found some livable place, more so to live, outside of a Red Roof Inn. Why were they there to begin with? Why were they occupying that space and, say, not living in a possibly low income area of what would have been affordable to their pocket. That seems, I won't say it seems shady, but it is in fact sketchy, because it's all type of people around you and I that don't have the funds and the means, such as a Kahlil and Andrea possibly having two incomes, and yet even them individuals that don't have that much money, in fact, have an apartment. Many live in the projects. I used to live in the projects a long time ago. Yes, I did. I got uprooted from out of the atmosphere or whatnot. But I'm just saying, there's all type of places you could in fact live with that. But I've known individuals, yes I have personally, who have in fact lived in and out of places such as the Red Roof Inn. I in fact have known individuals. I think the last time I've been in a Red Roof Inn, I can't even remember if that was a Red Roof Inn or maybe it was somewhere else that reminded me. I can't even remember if I stayed at a Red Roof Inn. I don't even think I know what they look like on the inside. I know they're cheap hotels, or some would call them motels, right? People in fact live out of motels, right? Because see, with that, you got people that come into the room, such as cleaning service and all that other stuff. You got breakfast and all that, but it's so questionable, because see, the individuals that I knew that was staying in and out of hotels, that was in fact why they stayed there. Some that, yes, didn't have money, such as low income, and some that had a little bit of money, and some that was high class, going, taking business trips, doing whatever, and not vacations, right? And so one of the particular reasons of individuals that I knew say that stayed in hotels is because they didn't want to clean up everything behind them. And not only that, the amount that you will pay for a hotel is the amount that you will possibly pay for a apartment, because when you think about it, sometimes paying for a hotel can get a little bit even more expensive than staying at an apartment. That's why I'm questioning even that, as in Kahlil, with the activity. I try not to, I'm an honest person, but I try not to tell too much of, say, individuals that I've known in the past. They're no longer in my life, right? But I try not to really tell too much of them. I allow people to tell their own story, right? I'm trying to think, because I know I was going to stay at a Red Roof Inn. That was back in October 24th. No, I keep saying October, November 2013, right? And I can't remember if it has one level or two levels, the floor nature. And even if it has elevators, I can't remember. But I know that there is in fact breakfast at those sort of places. They don't bring it to your room. You have to go get it on foot. But yeah, when you think about it, those places do sometimes cost more than getting a cheap apartment, or say renting out a house from somebody in the hood somewhere. I wonder why Kahlil had no interest in that. Not only that, I wonder what type of individual was he known to, say, even though he did street activity, was he known to not want to, say, be around individuals such as niggas, as they like to call them. Some people do street activity, and yet they don't want to be around what is statistically called a nigga, as in other black males that do stupid things that are in the street activity, so they try not to be in the hood. I question, where was the Red Roof Inn located at? Was it around the hood surrounding areas, or on the outskirts of the hood? Yeah, so yeah, that's so questionable. Like, why would the both of them stay in and out of the hotel, Kahlil and Andrea? Could there have been drug servicing, such as them selling drugs in and out of, or packaging drugs or something going on in the four walls of that hotel room, in order for them to stay there and not live within a home of some kind? So surveillance tapes owned by the hotel in which Kahlil and Andrea stayed would have picked up many grown men and or women coming in and out of rooms if there was drug activity. And not only that, the surveillance tapes owned by the hotel in which Andrea Kahlil, as well as Relisha, if say Relisha were being pimped or sex trafficked, it will be like on the tape of multiple individuals on random days, not just on that day, but random days coming in and out of that room, or at various hotels. But that, did I say this before? How where you live, or how where you stay, but he was living there. So yes, that fits. If you live at a Red Roof Inn, that's to say that it's more of a lower class in a sense hotel, but maybe not, depending on the city and the upkeep or the state of where that Red Roof was, or many of them, right? Or where Kahlil stayed. And if he stayed at other hotels outside of Red Roof Inn, such as the name, and if it was more expensive or maybe not, right? That is to question the tape, such as a surveillance of if a camera could have been broken or not mounted properly at various angles within the hotel, as well as on the outside of the hotel itself. Because some of these more up class hotels which you go into, sometimes they have cameras dotted everywhere. They do. As in, they don't turn off. They just monitor all day. And yet to be at somewhat of a more, I won't say janky, and yet it can be, depending on how it's upkept. Some of the cameras flicker. Some of the cameras go out and then come back on. That, in a sense, for some people will be like, well, that seems like doubt will be there on whether the child is alive or dead, seeming FBI never released any footage of her coming out. But anytime you're paying for something that cheap, as in a stay, it's to know that sometimes the surveillance cameras can be cheap as well while you're there. And say the camera has a glitch in it and it don't record, say when Relisha and Kahlil came out, or say even if Kahlil had put his hands on the child by killing her before he killed himself and brought the child out in body bags, and say the surveillance didn't pick it up because say maybe there was a glitch or something, or a timeout factor in the camera just going out and coming back in or something, as in no footage being there, or say the camera being janky and old where it just didn't pick up that time frame. And so FBI, yes, none of them, even the agent, more than likely chief of police, the sheriff's office, any of them more than likely is not going to come to the public and state that. They're possibly going to just state what they did, saying they feel that the child might be dead, or some of them stating in the news, oh, well, she might have been sex trafficked. Because see, the camera points to everything, and yet nothing is solid with this. Devices, I'm saying, they're prone to, in fact, glitch. I just had an issue a minute ago where I was sitting in this car, right? And it's hot, it's 82 degrees. My camera actually overheated because of the heat and cut off. And I had to cut it back on. So, yes, to be in and out of hotels that type of quality is no, that type of thing possibly could have happened. And not only that, I'm a question about the elevator a little bit later. So, I wonder what floor level Relisha and Kahlil stayed on while at the hotel, and if they could have used an elevator. I just jumped ahead, didn't I? Now I'm rewinding back. If they could have used the elevator, because do Red Roof Inns have elevators? Back in October 2013, November 2013, I was going to stay at one for a Faith Evans concert. Yes, I was, because it was real cheap. And yet she ended up canceling for whatever reason, right? So I didn't end up whatever. But with that, I can't remember if it's a 1 level or a 2 level. 1 level or 2 level, the Red Roof Inn. And if there could be a sign of an elevator going up and down. I'm thinking there would be, because we're in changing times where some buildings you go into has a 1 or 2 level and there's in fact elevators. So maybe there was an elevator, and yet was there a surveillance camera surrounding that elevator? Even if Relisha is alive, or even if she's dead, I wonder if she was dead, if say Kahlil wrapped her dead body up in trash bags, if a camera could have been mounted somewhere by where the elevator was, if there was an elevator. Or say if he walked out hand in hand with her, could there been the elevator, yes, and say there was no surveillance camera there. Because within hotels, there's all type of angles, and yet the cheaper you pay for something, I just say that at the beginning, the cheaper you pay for a hotel, the less expensive they're going to have in the upkeep, as in mounting cameras everywhere, and sometimes not even outside and just on the inside. Yet the more expensive and sometimes high quality a hotel is, the cameras are sometimes outside mounted enough for even them to view across way the parking lot. Even you pulling up, where you pull up right at the lobby and the entrance and get out your car. Many hotels, but I don't know if a red roof would have that sort of thing. That is just, is everything is just too bad and sad, if you ask. Hotels have side doors. Yes, they do have side doors. All hotels have side doors as well as back doors. They have multiple entries. And I'm thinking a red roof would have that sort of thing. I'm thinking it would have had that sort of thing. You have some hotels where you just go into it and you come back out. Like how some apartments don't have a back door. You just unlock the door and go in and come back. But that was not one of those type of things. They in fact had to use a hallway, and possibly a long hallway, to get to an entrance exit. But cameras, I'm thinking they had to be mounted all around the building or something. Or maybe they wasn't. Even if Kahlil, did I state this? Even if Kahlil left out a back door and said drag Relisha's dead body in garbage bags, I'm thinking you wouldn't want to take that on the elevator. I'm thinking a grown man wouldn't want to take a child's body in the elevator in garbage bags. I'm thinking because she would had to really been wrapped up or something. And he possibly would have had to carry it with two hands. And that would have, just think about a body if you was to put it in a garbage bag, multiple garbage bags. And more likely he wouldn't have used one garbage bag. He would have used multiple garbage bags for that sort of thing. Possibly all the garbage bags that he could fit from the package in which he bought. Them contractor 46-gallon or 40-gallon garbage bags, he would have had to have possibly used 10 or 15 bags to not make a mess. And not only that, when something is dead, the more heavier the body is or something, right? And I can't see him dragging that down the hallway. He would literally have to pick it up with his two hands or something like this, holding it with both hands like this as the body is down, weighted down, or carried it. That seems because a dead body is at an angle. And not only that, depending on how quickly and slowly somebody dies, you got rigor mortis that plays into that, as in when a body starts hardening and you're not being able to say if he would have killed her and laid her on the bed. Rigor mortis starts to, after so long, starts to play, and you can't really break bones unless you got some type of hammer or something to crack even the bones, to put them in a bag in a way where it doesn't look like it's a human in a body bag. So it's all, how would he have carried her? Because if he carried her sitting there dead, that would have, yeah, it just, that, I don't think they would have gotten, I don't think he would have gotten on the elevator with that child's body. And not only that, there would be something more. I'm thinking that would have been, would FBI would have told that or showed that or something. I'm thinking maybe they don't. This is almost like the Asia degree case in many ways, because see, the etched out part of the surveillance and it not being there, as in him being seen taking somebody out in a dead body bag, I mean in a trash bag used in the form of a body bag, that's to almost say the FBI, they didn't tell, right? But maybe when I say Asia degree, how it's almost similar to that. Asia degree case had the bag pertaining to her book bag, and FBI not stating what was in the bag. How this case is similar to that is because if, say, Relisha was dead, she could be alive, right? She could in fact be alive today in another city state, right? But say if she wasn't and she was carried out, and yet FBI has that on tape, and yet they're not showing the public, maybe they're doing that sort of thing to see whatever they can plant on the mother. See, you can't just go to a mother and say, I got a warrant for this and this and that to gain information out of you, right? You have to have, something has to be a rightful cause. Something has to be there which points to guilt outside of the mother being an unresponsible parent. That's in fact the truth. You can't just say, yes, you can't just say, I'm going to go over here and put Relisha's mother in jail. We got the tape, though we didn't show the public, right? There's something more up underneath that. There's in fact something more underneath that, in which I'm thinking about, but I don't want to pause too much, even saying too much about even that, because let me see this. Did I skip? Let me look right quick, because I got papers, because I don't like to never go off of memory. Didn't I say that before? Because I might forget to say something. Why would a grandmother and mother be writing notes to Relisha's school to either remove her from being able to attend school, or say them writing notes for Kahlil Tatum to pull a young child out of school? What was the point in that? A Dr. Tatum, the doctoring up process. What was Kahlil himself doctoring? A young child should always be in school, so she can, yes, prevent ending up like her mother and grandmother. That's tragedy in itself. Yes, it is. Dear Shamika and dear Melissa Young, hopefully you guys watch this video. Somebody in fact need to pass this along to them so that they can see. Because, sometimes a being failure in life is to, yes, have situations just like this as it's happening. The missing and disappeared. Where would Relisha be, and what was the reason for those notes to be written? Where would she be at? Would she just be sitting along holding hands with herself in the hotel room? Even while Kahlil was at work? Where would she be at? What was the intention of all that? Just pulling a child. What does a child at 8 years old do being pulled out of school, or just giving a note to somebody so she doesn't have to go to school? And then have her come to find out where she was missing. That was almost 2.5, 3 weeks, almost half a month. And say if the child was alive, what was she doing? What was the point of her doing it? Dear Shamika, that just what? Children should be in a children's lane, as in handling childlike activities and not being around grown men if that's not their father. If Relisha was taken out of school for the day, and say Kahlil was known to work, that's important. If Relisha was taken out of school for the day and say Kahlil was known to work, then who was watching Relisha as this was happening? That's a very vital question. I'm sorry. That's a very, very vital question. And me asking, because if she wasn't in school and Kahlil was at work sometimes, or possibly every day, and not taking off all the time, then who was in fact keeping Relisha? Nowhere has it been stated or documented that Kahlil himself was taking Relisha to work at the homeless shelter, in which he worked at as a janitor, possibly cleaning toilets and kitchens and God knows whatever else, the same homeless shelter Shamika stayed at and lived at. Because even that would have been, that would have been stated to the public sometimes, that Kahlil would in fact bring the child to work with him. And then the homeless shelter will possibly ask Kahlil, why is the girl out of school? Why do you have this little girl out of school? And not only that, we can't really have her being in the soup kitchen with you while you're working, because that poses a liability, such as a child getting hurt by being scalded by something. Say if she wanted to help cook something or clean something, with even cleaning products can scald you. Yes, they do pose damage. Some children have been known to accidentally swallow those sort of things. That would have been a liability issue, so she couldn't have been on the job with Kahlil. But he couldn't have been taken off of work every day to keep that young child. So who had her? Was she being sent, like Taylor asked me in the comment section, was little Relisha being sent to Georgia during this process of when he was, say, taking her and pulling her out of school? Because I'm thinking, depending on the family member of Kahlil that lived in Georgia, was it Atlanta, Georgia? I'm thinking those family members would in fact work, unless, say, his mother or auntie or whoever lived there in Georgia and was older, and maybe they was retired and they didn't work, and she was being sent to them. Relisha, somebody had to have been keeping the little girl. That's all messed up, because anybody in their right mind knows that the little child is supposed to be in school. There's nothing more important out here in this world for an 8-year-old to be anywhere else but in the four walls of a school, getting education, because that's going to be betterment for her future of something. There has to be a reason for that. There had to be some type of babysitter in the form of something. And not only that, what was Andrea doing? I asked about the job because did I state this before, that Andrea was known to volunteer at homeless shelters, and I don't think it was the one that Shamika stayed at, right? I don't think it was the same one Shamika stayed at, but Andrea was known to do certain good deeds despite her struggling with drugs. Just because people live street life don't mean that they're bad all the way, especially if they plant a good seed, a good deed of helping others, such as the elderly. It was stated she helped widows and helped homeless shelters and stuff like that, despite her being, I guess, mean and nasty, such as loved and hated at times, but being nice. But was she the one, say, not working and keeping Relisha until Kahlil came home from work at the hotel, that Red Roof Inn? That is pure evidence in itself. Trying to make sure of, yes, what? Hold on, wrong one. Wrong one. It just that Kahlil was a janitor. Yes, he was at the same hotel that Relisha's mother stayed at. But what will be the reason for a grown man who is not the child's father or not even family to have a child going into hotel rooms with him? What will be the point in that? Because see, if Andrea wasn't with Gerald Wills every day, then she had to in fact been with her husband before. Yes, Kahlil Tatum, before they divorced one another, which means she had to have spent a great amount of time around Relisha if Relisha spent a great amount of time around Kahlil, right? And so something about that seems off or something, like the marker aspect pertaining to where was all these individuals at while the child was in and out of these hotel rooms, that Red Roof Inn. Somebody need to leave me a comment in the comment section about, oh, you know what? That's in fact where Andrea was working at. She was working at a gym. I'm sorry. I should have stated that in the beginning of the video. She was working at a gym, but that's not to say she was there all day. She was either working there in the morning or she had to been working there in the afternoon. It was in fact a gym for gays and all that other stuff. The gays, possibly gay men or maybe women, I don't know, right? But that's to say that she may have worked there in the morning or she possibly worked there in the afternoon, because to work at a gym is to have sometimes sporadic hours and not you coming in, say, every day at the same time. I had a cousin that in fact worked at a gym at a school, at a college, right? And her hours was really sporadic. So I'm wondering if Andrea could have worked in the daytime. Then that's to say she wasn't keeping Relisha. Somebody else had to have been keeping that little girl. But say if she worked more so in the afternoon or something, I'm thinking Kahlil. See, that's where the timeline gets kind of skimmy at. Because if Andrea was in and out of hotels with Kahlil, them being married, then depending on Andrea's work hours at that gym and Kahlil's work hours, at the shelter being a janitor. Maybe while Kahlil was at work, Andrea wasn't, and she was keeping Relisha until Kahlil came home or something. And then maybe she went in later. That's a ticking in itself. I'm saying it's telling a little bit, and yet it's not. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not saying that it doesn't look right for a grown man to have a child that's not his in a hotel room, and yet it kind of does, because as I asked before, a man his age, yes, should in fact, yes, have a home, and maybe some babysitters, one or two, seeming he has to work, or what, I mean, something. I wonder if Kahlil had a history of living in and out of homeless shelters himself, seeming he worked there. And I'm wondering when the last time he actually had a home. Apartment, a home, a duplex, a complex, a something. Not owner of a complex, and that's not a joke, but I'm wondering how long was it seen, observed by even his own family members. They be on YouTube. One of them might in fact answer me back. You never know. I don't fear even them. I don't fear nobody. But yes, answer me back, dear Kahlil Tatum's family. This is direct disclosure, undisclosed to you. The question: when was the last time Kahlil himself had a house or a home or apartment? Everything I just named, a duplex or whatever. Because that in fact points in the direction to say why him and Andrea possibly could have divorced. Because if he wasn't known to say constantly be in and out of homeless shelters, if he wasn't known to constantly be say living in and out of hotels over a long period of time, and say this was a short period of time, say 8 months, a year, something like that, because he might have been struggling on trying to make ends meet, having his wife side by side, and possibly having little Relisha, right, for whatever purpose that he used her for or had her for around him, right? That's to say he could have had a home and lost it, not being able to afford or something. It just running circles around even that question is, man, if you got a home and say you don't have the financial means to keep up with that, but if you got an apartment or a duplex, one or the two, and you don't have the financial means, you might in fact fall on hard times, which might make you, Kahlil, say have to rent out a hotel room. But as I stated before, maybe I didn't, my video cut it off, I had to re-record it. That's to say hotel rooms, in fact, Red Roof Inn possibly could cost just about the same as having a home or apartment or a duplex, or sometimes it could possibly be more. It depends on the location where you're staying at, the upkeep of it, of say the individuals keeping it up, how much they're charging, right? Did I say that in the beginning of the video, right? That's why that's why that part I'm gonna keep repeating. That's why that seems so odd. Because if you're paying almost what you would pay to live in a home, such as a lower class environment, housing or home, you are in fact, yes, paying about the same percentage as you would as that hotel you're living in, right? But why wouldn't you want to live in that don't make sense. Why wouldn't you not want to make, I mean, because see, I think more so not because see, a man would want to do that type of thing, and yet a woman, you would in fact question the class of Andrea herself. And I did that already. Andrea, if sex trafficking was involved with this young child's case, Andrea herself had to have been prostituting or selling her body or something. But I'm thinking, why not do that inside of your own home and say, instead of doing it in a hotel room? Because men of all kind will be on the surveillance tapes, and I'm thinking Andrea and Kahlil had to have known that. Street people know all type of whatever. because they be paranoid to begin with. That's completely odd. You're gonna pay the same amount of money for a hotel that you will pay to live somewhere, a cheap house somewhere in the hood, maybe. So let me see. My goodness. Yes, as in the years had a history. I wonder if Kahlil has ever had a history, work history. Yes, him working and him ever being terminated from any jobs. As in Kahlil being, that's why I like to show my face, because see, when people have family members and you know that they can have access to YouTube and looking up stuff, family members are prone to get nosy to see who's saying stuff about them, possibly Kahlil Tatum's family. I would love for them to watch this video, because my other question, dear Kahlil Tatum's family, and possibly Andrea Tatum's family, what type of jobs did Kahlil have, and how many times, say, could he have been terminated? It's just a question. From any jobs. It just, Shamika and her selection, because she's street, all the way street, so that's all you can expect from her, is nothing more than street, because she loves that activity, running around, using drugs all day. You gotta let people do what they do, and yet not completely when children go missing, right? But it just seemed like she's drawn to the individuals that being out of the hotels. Yeah, Shamika, the child's mother, being drawn to people that live and work out of just not homeless shelters and hotels. But what is her purpose in that? As in, see, there's a motivation behind everything, such as a motive of why we do things, human beings. Why would I want to be a Shamika Young hanging with individuals that say not only work at homeless shelters but are prone to live in and out of hotels? Why would I want to be involved with them, as in the activity and the point out of what are they doing in the hotels of people I surround myself, being a Shamika Young with these people living in these hotels? That shows what type of friend she has. What type of woman would be prone, yes, to live in and out of homeless shelters? Shamika, that's because of her drug usage. She has nowhere else to go. Family possibly don't, and I stated that in my last video, family possibly don't want nothing to do with her because she possibly can get overhanded and loudmouth to the extremity. Would sex trafficking affairs be one of Shamika's things, as in how she get down? I can believe that, because drug just tells on itself, right? Is that why Shamika would even hook up with a Kahlil Tatum and possibly could have been in bed being turned out herself by Kahlil Tatum via a hotel room? I'm sure there has to be surveillance tape of that, such as Shamika entering in and out the four walls of even Kahlil's hotel rooms, Red Roof Inn and all the rest, right? There's possibly copies in the percentage of that. But cause Shamika, yes, the sex trafficking, even in that, is that why she wanted to be involved with the Kahlil Tatum, to sex traffic her own self through him if he was involved in that? He just don't look like the type that would have sex trafficked a child. But Shamika looks like the type, maybe that's why people are saying what they're saying about her, thinking that she could have in fact sold her own child. Because Shamika looked like the type that could possibly get desperate for anything. And didn't I say that suck a man's private parts off in the alleyway or something? When I joked to Taylor in the comment section when I stated she seemed like the type of individual that would live and hang out on Lipstick Alley. That forum site where a lot of black folks hang out and they be tearing each other down and all craziness, drama and celebrity drama. Shamika looked like the type that will be on there in a disguise. And I stated about the APB, putting out an APB to make sure she not sucking off grown men in alleyways and selling any more of her children or something crazy like that if she sold Relisha, right? Making sure she's on Lipstick Alley where she possibly is. We don't even know. Or maybe on Facebook. I don't know. But these grown men that she hook up with that living in and out of hotels. I wonder if at any time could Kahlil himself have, say, pimped out even Shamika, the child's mother that I spoke on. Could he have pimped out Shamika from a hotel room? Or pimped out the grandmother? She looks like she's just too old. She in fact needs to retire. Melissa Young, the grandmother of Relisha, she looked like she needs to retire off the crack. As in give the crack pipe up, because it's doing a lot of damage to looks and everything else, right? When I think about that, what all could Shamika have actually did? The twisting and turning of that. What all could Shamika have did with Kahlil in and out of these hotel rooms that possibly has something to do with Relisha, or maybe not at times? Maybe just herself and him. And I'm sure even Andrea had to have known about that, as in, say, Shamika having sex with Kahlil in hotel rooms, because Andrea was allowed to have a man herself on the side, such as Gerald Wills, the man she knew possibly before Kahlil and even before marrying Kahlil. And yet she just stayed with him. And she was even involved with Gerald while Kahlil was in and out of jail. So I'm thinking, Andrea, if there was a secret relationship or sometime between Shamika having sex with Kahlil in and out of hotels, Andrea herself have been a part of that. And possibly a threesome. You never even know about people. Because Andrea seemed like she liked it, love triangles and stuff. That could have been possibly what got her killed. Didn't I say that too? Outside of the question of Relisha, if she was sex trafficked. Because, see, that's a good question itself. You don't know what type of relationship Kahlil Tatum had with Relisha's mother, Shamika Young, if they were still having sex or was involved in a secret love relationship, right? And say if Andrea didn't like that type of thing and she knew about it and wanted to divorce Kahlil. We don't even know, and could possibly have gotten her killed. Andrea, I'm saying, and her dying. When people feel, well, maybe Kahlil killed Andrea because of the question of if he had something to do with Relisha's disappearance. Maybe or maybe not. Maybe Shamika was found get in and out of bed with Kahlil in that hotel room. Or other hotel rooms, and Andrea didn't know from the beginning or found out about it later, and so she possibly wanted to file divorce. We don't even know these people enough to know to even question. Which is why I'm questioning. Why, yeah. What could Andrea have used the hotel room for herself? Because it occupies space and share a unit such as a hotel room is to know not only will the husband get down on some activities, but possibly the wife herself, such as Andrea. What could she have been doing in them hotel rooms herself with her husband? And possibly Gerald Wills, if he was friendly enough to stand side by side. I wonder, see, I always wonder about that. If Andrea could have had threesomes between, yes, Kahlil's wife. If Andrea could have had a threesome between Kahlil, herself, and Shamika, or if Andrea and Gerald Wills, as well as Kahlil, could have been having a threesome. Because it's all the way around is a triangle, like a love triangle all the way. That completely fits, doesn't it? Which could be why Shamika ain't saying much more, because she do look like the type of person, a bottom barrel person. That means when you look at somebody, not myself, but when people look at her with disgust, where she's willing to do anything of any kind. And that's not disgust. No, it's not. Threesomes and all the rest, people do what they do. Like I said, I'm open-minded to allow people to practice what they practice. But in desperation, people do things which could be viewed by the public in disgust. Not the threesome aspect, but just what Shamika might have did, even if she might have had sex with Gerald Wills himself. And possibly they may or may not be blood relatives. We still don't know. Because for Shamika Young to share a last name with Gerald Wills' mother, Edna Young, is still in question. That is so odd. But you don't ever know who's sexing who. You never know, because see, Andrea Tatum, before she died, she could have been sexing secretly Shamika Young. We don't know. See what I'm saying? When people get killed, such as murder, you never know who does what. Women are oftentimes attracted to other women, and that's normal. Never allow somebody to tell you that's not normal. We don't know. Shamika Young, Relisha's mother, could have been in and out of bed, having affairs with Kahlil's wife, Andrea Tatum, and say he could have walked in or something. We don't even know. We don't even know. That sort of thing could possibly have made him want maybe to kill her or something. Andrea, Kahlil, possibly, if he found out that. The love triangle thing is very high, as in relevant. Yes, it is. And people, in fact, get killed, murder over that sort of thing. Who's loving who and who's sexing who in secrecy. Kahlil's off days with Relisha. Did I just say that? I think I did just say that. It just, it's so much ways you can question that. His off days, as in, how was the off days of Relisha and Kahlil spent? Like, what were they doing? I don't think they walked around hand in hand showboating. He did buy her nice cute gifts such as dresses and all the rest, right? Little girls love that type of thing. And I'm sure Kahlil possibly made her feel special, and I'm hoping not in the pedophilia way, as in touching and feeling on her private parts. I'm in question of even that. What did they do? How did they spend their time on his off days? Where did Relisha like to go? That's vital as well, as in wondering and questioning where would Relisha herself have loved to go on even Kahlil's off days. Could little Relisha have wanted, dear Taylor, because you was speaking about this, could Relisha herself have, say, met Kahlil's family members in Georgia and wanted to go down there and be persistent going down there on, say, his off days? Or, you know how you ask young children, where would you like to go? Where would you, what trip, if you can go any trip, where would you like to be, or whatever, how you ask children that. And say you got family members elsewhere and not the family members in Georgia. Kahlil could have had that sort of thing. Family members, say not in Georgia, but somewhere possibly in Texas, knowing that a lot of black folks are moving to Dallas, Texas, right? He could have had, in fact, a connection there. Dallas, Texas. And her wanting to, say, go or something. We don't even know that part. I don't even know myself. It's just a standing question. Because, see, I don't think he could have taken off that many days. Did I ask that? When it comes to jobs, usually jobs, I thought it looks kind of odd and suspicious to an employer, which is hiring a new employee, to say if that employee or that employer does. If a job, if you're applying through application and interview towards a job, usually they want you to have a home address, right? And yet, I'm thinking this is not one of those situations, such as a sticky situation where, say, Kahlil applied at the homeless shelter and say, or somebody got him in or something. Maybe somebody did that. But usually jobs, they don't a lot of times want you to use the address of a hotel room in which you are staying and living to apply for that job. But once again, it doesn't fit this situation, because I'm thinking at homeless shelters, they possibly have had individuals that had felt low in life, possibly lived in out of homeless shelters themselves. possibly Kahlil in the past, who knows, enough for him to gain employment, yes, employment through that homeless shelter, despite him not carrying a home address. Do homeless shelters do that sort of thing? I think they do, because they know all type of people that work at them, because even soup kitchens are involved in that, so they know people have history of drug usage, poor home life, not having financial means to have a house. So maybe that just bypassed and letting him being able to work there with the hotel home address, because anywhere else will be like, we can't hire you, I'm sorry. You can't have a P.O. box as your home address, and you can't have a hotel room as your home address unless, say, you're a business individual taking business trips, and yet they will still want some type of permanent address, because even that marks stability, as in you're not constantly moving around. Because to have a outside address, such as something that's not a home address and it's a hotel room, is to say you might be unstable, as I spoke before in my last video, enough to not keep the job. Because to be in and out of hotel rooms and you're not a businessman or woman is to show, yes, carrying a briefcase or something, is to show that you might not keep that job that you're working at. That's why many people don't like individuals applying at their place of work and documenting that they're living in the hotel room, because they don't know how long you're going to stay at the job or soon enough quit. So, yes, 2 grown adults and a child connected to a homeless shelter. One adult working for the homeless shelter as the other living out of one. That's just odd how Relisha, oh, when I stated that, yes, that was Kahlil and Relisha's mom. But it's just weird how Relisha looks so much like Kahlil. I wonder, because see, the mother lies so much, and I stated that on another video, how when she claimed to not have known, how she claimed to not have, say, known Kahlil, and then she comes out later and stated that she did know him real well, right? It's like, how long did she know him before she arrived at the shelter? How long did she know him before Relisha was born? I wonder, I'm in question of if Irvin Rudd knew Kahlil Tatum, because Irvin Rudd is stated to be Relisha's father. I don't know if that's truth or not. Somebody stated that he was. I kind of feel that he ain't. I kind of feel that Kahlil Tatum could possibly be Relisha's dad, but we all don't know. We just question it, right? But I'm wondering if Kahlil Tatum could have knew Irvin Rudd personally, because street individuals that get down the street activity, a lot of times they all know each other, and yet they might not in fact hang with each other on a day-to-day basis. All is just a coincidence. When it comes to that video pertaining to Relisha's mother, Shamika, putting it out as it being stamped of when the last time the child was seen being around her mother, right? That video, when I think it's said March 1st or something like that. Usually there is a time stamp, such as date and time, but I wonder if that sort of thing, some devices in fact let you alter that, the date and time of the video. Shamika or somebody, because street boys get into that as well, altering and editing and all that other stuff. Despite the video being time stamped March 1st, who's to in fact say? I'm saying the skepticism and me questioning if that was really the last time Shamika was around her. Maybe that was in fact a video that was from earlier or something. That video might in fact could have been from an earlier time event, and not the actual time event in which it was stated Shamika last seen the child, as in her posting the child's video. That video could have been taken days before and altered or something through an editing software or something. I don't know. and then post it on Facebook or something. Or Facebook wouldn't be able to handle that. Why did I just say that? You could edit it and post it on YouTube. But something about that is strange and leery. The timing aspect, the factoring of the timestamp of when Relisha say went missing, her mom posting that video around the time of when she went missing, and it being postmarked or stamped of March 1st. Shamika trying to make it seem like Relisha still being alive, and yet who's to say she could in fact be dead? Relisha. That could have just been the time of when Shamika last saw the child, right? Nobody knows, because we live in a technology advanced world where people can alter all type of things even on their phone. Back in 2014, because I was highly advanced in technology, back in that time frame of 2014, didn't we have editing software where you could in fact edit your videos of what you took on your camera phone and say posted it on Facebook, and that being able to alter the timing and possibly location of a video and all that? I think that sort of thing was a possibility even back then. And me saying that, you say Shamika editing a video to make it seem like that was when trying to make it seem like to the public that Relisha is alive and she possibly is not. That's to possibly take the guilt off herself, as in Shamika trying to prevent herself going to jail, because that spells accomplice as well, giving your child off to a man that you don't know. But her say uploading the video to make it seem like the child is alive. That video might have been edited or something to make it seem like that video. See, what I'm trying to say is the video might have been recorded days before or a month before or something, right? And then to edit, because you can edit your own camera from your camera phone, and even back in 2014 I know that you could have did that, because I know I'm thinking Shamika possibly recorded that video weeks before or days before Relisha went missing, as say she recorded the video but possibly edited on March 1st. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I walked around in circles to get to even that. The video possibly was stored in Shamika's phone for days on end or weeks on end as just some footage that we all like to keep on our phone, and then she possibly got online on Google and searched around for an editing program where you could even do that right around the time when police was in question of Relisha's disappearance, and then she possibly edited the video and released it on March 1st. And yet once you edit something, it's going to, in fact, the video is going to be tagged from that. Yes, with the actual date. It's going to say, once you release it on Facebook or social media and you play, it's going to in fact have the actual date or something. Because editing software, even online, and you're doing it digitally, does handle that processing for you. So Shamika, she's trying to play a game to make it seem like maybe Relisha is still alive and maybe she's dead and gone. Who knows? We don't know. But I'm thinking that will try to cover her tracks on her end. Because I used to be doing all type of stuff on Google, editing stuff in my phone, editing this, editing videos, even on the computer, and you download it once it's done, put it back on your phone, put it on your actual external hard drive on your computer. You can do all type of things with that sort of thing. I could take my camera phone, and we all know this. I can take if I was Shamika Young, I could take my camera phone and say, record my child doing stuff a month before she went missing, and then say, email myself or something to edit it on my computer, and then once I'm done with that, send it back to my phone and then upload it on Facebook. That's a lot of work. I'm thinking Shamika possibly might not have did, but I'm sure one of them street boys might have been willing to do that, just to prevent the paranoia of even Shamika possibly going to jail. You don't know what people do in the dark, is what I'm trying to say, to take the guilt off themselves. I'm wondering about the job aspect. Kahlil himself. Did Shamika have connections at the homeless shelter and got Kahlil into the shelter, or was Kahlil there working before? Or was Kahlil working there before and say, did he know somebody and got Shamika in? See how I just twisted that? I just did a 180 or 2 or 360 on you. 360 degrees all the way around. That's a chess mark. I don't play chess. Or do I? Do I play chess? Who knows? I'm just walking around in a strategy. Who got who into the homeless shelter? Because for them to have known each other and Shamika lying is to say possibly Kahlil was working there before Shamika started living at the homeless shelter, and say he knew somebody there or management and got her into the homeless shelter so that she and Relisha could live there. Or maybe Shamika was living there longer than say Kahlil was working there, and say she knew somebody at the shelter long enough, or supervisor management enough to get Kahlil in so that he can get a janitor job. I'm thinking the other way around, the reverse aspect. I'm thinking Kahlil possibly was working at the shelter longer than Shamika was. I could be wrong. That is messed up. I wonder where did Shamika and Kahlil meet, as in the meeting place, when they very first met. Yes, very first met. Location, tapped down somewhere, location wise. Where did they meet? Exchange, hello, how are you? Or did they know each other from high school? Some people be knowing, see, that's what I'm saying, the hood activity and people keeping secrets. Shamika might have knew that man since high school. If he wasn't from Atlanta, Georgia, even if he was and say he moved there later, we don't even know where Shamika might have more family. She might could have 2 family in Atlanta, Georgia, knowing that the majority of black folks in the population have been, yes, flying down to Georgia quicker than anything, and even taking Greyhound buses and trains trying to get down there to be whatever, to make a come up. Does Shamika have family down in Atlanta, Georgia? I'm sure she probably do. I have, in fact, family down in Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, I do. And not on just one side of the family, but on both sides of the family. Ain't that interesting, right? And I think on my brother's side of the family, we don't have the same dad, and yet I think his family members live down there too. I don't know. But black folks flock to Atlanta, Georgia. Which makes you question, because when I stated, well, maybe Shamika in fact met Kahlil during high school, either he could have lived in Georgia and moved here somewhere along the way, right? Later on. Or maybe they went to different schools and yet knew each other back that far long ago and just is not telling. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's so odd and strange to me that a Gerald Wills, his mother shares the same last name as Shamika Young. Gerald Wills was in a relationship with Kahlil Tatum's wife, Andrea Tatum. This is the triangle again. See where I'm saying about the triangle? If that's truth, that Edna Young being Gerald Wills' mother, right? And say he would in fact be Shamika Young's cousin, if that's the truth. I don't know how true that is. I just scoped that out, right? And finding out. But that's still a circle. Because see, Gerald Wills knew even Andrea for over 30 something years. With that point back almost in the direction of high school, pertaining to the years and all adding up in the field of science. Me being the Bachelor of Science, equating all. I'm thinking Kahlil had to have known Shamika somewhere around high school age or something, and they just possibly went to 2 different schools. And yet maybe many in the streets even knew that they knew each other for that long. That's a twist and turn. Gerald Wills was involved with Kahlil Tatum, which Kahlil Tatum was Andrea's husband. And then if Shamika Young is cousins with Gerald Wills, that's where all just unravels. The all-seeing eye, such as myself seeing. Yep, either Relisha's mother was high as a kite on drugs, such as the crack fix, to the point she couldn't send Relisha to school on her own. That's possibly why Kahlil had her, many people feel. So the grandmother knew all of this. Yes, she did. Which is why the mother and the grandmother both lie on each other, because they both live the same lifestyle and they both handed the child off to somebody. I'm thinking possibly the grandmother knew Kahlil Tatum and possibly even knew his family. You never know how close people really are. I'm sure Melissa Young, and her not saying that's Relisha's grandmother, possibly knew Kahlil Tatum's maybe aunt and uncle or cousin relatives, blood relatives personally. Because see, old people are known to connect with each other more so than us younger generations in today. As in, you're being friends or you know stuff about people's family history yet and you just don't say. I'm thinking that grandmother know a lot more about Kahlil than even she's telling. She has to. And I wonder if she's originally from where she's born and raised, right? Or could she have been born and raised somewhere else? Because even if Melissa Young, Shamika's mother, the child's grandmother, Relisha's grandmother, if she was born from the South, that's to say that she might have had Southern hospitality herself, just enough to be more welcoming to people, even if she was a crackhead, such as, say, being welcoming to, say, even Kahlil Tatum's family members. As in going years back and the grandmother possibly knowing more about Khalil's family than she's saying. And being welcoming and, say, knowing certain secrets about an aunt or an uncle or this or that. You don't know about people because people be knowing people and they keep that on the hush. Last question. I'm wondering, did I ask this? How many times did Kahlil miss work? As in not showed up, but not a no call, no show, possibly called in. Or even went up on the job. Some people do that when they can't go to work. They might show up and say, well, I can't work today because this came up. But I already stated that before, to not go into work numerous times because you got to take care of a child and you use that for an excuse. That's how, in fact, people get fired. Mothers have been, in fact, fired for that sort of thing. Miscommunication issues, and even in the form of communicating where you tell your job, I can't come to work today because I got to care for my child. My child is sick. So why hasn't Kahlil gotten fired from the shelter? That's why you question more the health issue of Relisha. When I stated, well, could she have had severe headaches or seizures, or could the seizures have been a lie by the grandmother writing notes and saying, or the mother lying about the health condition and say maybe Relisha just had severe headaches? Something more is up underneath that. Because Kahlil would have in fact gotten fired over time of saying, okay, well, I got to take off from work. How many excuses do you need to leave work to care for a child? And not only that, what's the purpose of it? Caring for a child, or her not being in school for the day. I think that's all to be said for now. I want you to enjoy your day. See how I'm sweating? It's just so piercing hot out. And yet I got to go to the store. I got to pick up some stuff myself. But yeah, I think that's all to be said. Kahlil didn't even lose his job.